Hey everybody, my name is Dr. Ryan Bland and I'm sitting here with Dr. Samuel Riley. This is the first of a webinar series. We have many webinars on the way, and if you're interested in being a guest of ours, please shoot us a message or leave a comment. We are looking for guests. You could be a physician, you could be somebody who's on their health and wellness journey, but we'd love to keep these webinars going, and we'd love to share really enriching health and wellness information. But without further ado, I would like to give an introduction to my first guest on our webinar. His name is Dr. Samuel Riley once more. I am a big person on Instagram. I just like to look at things and follow different hashtags. And I started following the applied kinesiology hashtag a while ago. And over the past year, this guy has been popping up on my feed, and I couldn't say enough amazing things about him. He's a chiropractor, an applied kinesiologist, clinical nutritionist, and functional medicine specialist. And just watching him online, he carries himself really well. He treats his patients really well. And every time I watch him adjust, I am always impressed with this guy's technique. He is spot on. So without further ado, welcome, Dr. Riley. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
Keep the compliments coming. I love it.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
I'm so happy to have you here. You know, a lot of people are fans of sports and all kinds of different hobbies. I look at health and wellness and great adjusters as amazing athletes and almost like martial artists. And when you have it, you have it, and you got it, man. It's awesome. So
I appreciate that.
I want to get into it. So I want to start by asking you, what started your chiropractic journey? What was it like for you when you had your first adjustment, and what got you started?
That's to be completely honest with you, I had never gone to a chiropractor until, probably my mid to late 20s. I was kind of always involved with the human body and sports and very active growing up. I had a lot of injuries myself. So, I was always going to physical therapy and doing exercises. And I had a lot of 3 or 4 shoulder surgeries from teenage to early 20s. And, I feel like we all kind of get, indoctrinated into, all right, you hurt yourself, you go to the orthopedic, you get surgery. And, just like you go to a chiropractor, they're going to adjust. You go to an acupuncture, they're probably going to do needles. You go to an orthopedic, they want to do surgery. So I kind of got stuck in this, kind of injury, rehab, re-injury, rehab. And it was just this bad cycle for me. And I also, just kind of growing up, I had a ton of allergies, the standard, seasonal dogs, cats, ragweed, dust, a lot of the things that people are, susceptible to. And, I was on Zyrtec for like 2 years. That stopped working. Then I was put on Claritin for 2 years. That stopped working. Then I get put on Allegra, and I'm like, doc, I don't want to take this stuff every day for the rest of my life. Is there something else that I can do? And he said, oh, well, you're a Riley, so you just have to take it. He treated a lot of my family members, and it kind of got me thinking, like, all right, well, what can I do a little more natural to kind of get into this stuff? And so I'd gone to University of Rhode Island for undergraduate, did exercise science, kinesiology. And after that, I did about 2 years of athletic training, just kind of working with young athletes, middle school, high school soccer players mainly. And it just it got a little bit old. I didn't think I knew enough. I kind of wanted to further my education. Started shadowing, some people in the industry, PTs, athletic trainers, chiropractors. And I actually found this chiropractor who I kind of hit it off with. And I always thought I was going to do PT, but the scope of practice for a chiropractor was just a lot more appealing to me, just kind of being able to do blood work, being able to order, x-rays, different radiology, that type of thing. So I still felt I could do all the things as a PT, but I could just do a little bit more just with the scope of practice. Went to New York Chiropractic College. My study buddy there, her mother was an applied kinesiologist, and
Ah,
she's probably been doing it for 40 years now. And she came up one weekend, had no idea what the hell she was doing. She started muscle testing, and, just like everybody, a lot of the new patients who come into your office, they think it's like black magic, or it's, they call you the witch doctor and that type of thing. So I kind of also had that kind of preconceived notion with it. And she worked on me on a couple things, and it was just kind of like one of those life-changing, light bulb moments. And from that point on, it was just AK or bust.
very cool.
How about
That's great.
yourself? Was
Well,
your father, is he a
yeah,
chiropractor?
yeah. My father is a chiropractor, and I've got some uncles and cousins and stuff. So I grew up I grew up with memories, really, really old memories of getting adjusted, and I think I could separate out the AK and the adjustment as far back as almost like 3 or 4. I remember my dad working some like neurolymphatic points. I had childhood asthma, and I remember him rubbing L1. And as a kid, you're ticklish and you're giggly. And I remember, writhing on the table, and giggling and having fun, and my dad trying to get me to stay still. But yeah, what's really interesting to touch upon is how everybody looks at AK, even somebody like myself who has memories of it helping me, with all my asthma and allergies way back as a young kid. But everyone calls it like we're a shaman or a witch doctor, or I have a very awesome patient who calls me the spine whisperer. And, it's very, I embrace that. I think it's quite enlightening and quite endearing. And it speaks volumes to what we do. I have a patient who I see frequently, and she turned to me and she said, I went to my medical doctor, and like 3 of the 4 supplements you have me on are things that he recommended after reviewing my labs. And she's like, I'm really glad that you found a way to find out what my body needs without drugs or surgery. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's kind of worth it when it becomes worth it for me. And it's really special. But I remember being young and always getting adjusted, and knowing that, like you think your parents are like, not cool, but they do something that's like really good. And I was like, man, like, you're my dad. You're supposed to not be cool, but you're cool. Like, like this is great. And I remember, like if I fell or something or had an injury, that it would be just an adjustment away until I was able to participate again. So I definitely, didn't spend too much time being injured until I got a little bit older and a little bit crazy and daring, so to say.
I'm a little jealous. If one of my parents was an applied kinesiologist, I might be in the NBA right now.
You never know. Maybe I disappointed, but I do remember, like, all the way dating back to being young. I remember taking the supplements, getting muscle tested for the supplements, and even my son now, when I see the same excitement. I'm like, oh, we're gonna muscle test you today, and he's like, oh, I get a supplement, and you get the bottle. It's not as cool as a new pair of sneakers, but it's, because you put those new sneakers on as a young man and you want to just go.
Yeah.
And it's the supplement and the adjustment made you feel that you were invincible. And one point that I'd like to bring up is, what we do is invisible. and to explain that to people, it's like magic. And when I talk to people, there's a lot of things invisible in life. You think about, atoms. We believe, most of us not all of us, but I believe most of us believe that atoms are neutrons, protons, and electrons, and they're even broken down into smaller things called quarks. We can't believe it because we can't see it, but we believe it because we know it's true, it's science. And the same thing is for prayer. A lot of people are religious, a lot of people pray. Is there any actual scientific evidence that prayer may work? No, it's something that we all just believe in. And I find that when patients believe in the system and also realize that this is an exact science, that's where the moments of patient and doctor kind of come together, and you start a real, healing process. I think it's a really special thing to have patients who are willing to try something new and completely different.
And it's just like oxygen too. Can't see it, but obviously we know the function of oxygen. But I also think it's one thing to be a spectator and to just kind of have no background of anything and just watching it as a spectator. But then when you actually get on the table and you actually experience it yourself, it's extremely reproducible. And at its very basic sense, it's just neurology testing, right? We're challenging, we're using strong muscles, whatever muscle that may be, and that's our assessment tool. And we can challenge certain points. We can challenge different acupuncture points. We can challenge different vertebrae to see, if there's an issue there and the exact specific vector that it needs to be adjusted. We can see if different, like you mentioned, neurolymphatic points need to be addressed. You can test with a lot of, I know you do Liebowitz protocol as well, which I think is an absolute game changer and every practitioner should be doing. But you treat the whole person and you get to the root cause of the issue. I mean, you could have somebody coming in with left knee pain, and it could just be from some food sensitivity that they have. And, you can adjust them till the cows come home, but it's just not going to address the issue. So I just feel that the best part of applied kinesiology is it just it takes all the guesswork out and it just kind of dives right into the issue. And, we get incredible results for people.
Amen. Let's rewind for a second, give a shout out to the Liebowitz family. And why don't you share a little bit more about your journey using the Liebowitz technique and tell people a little bit more about it. I think that could be really cool.
So with what I love about the Liebowitz technique is, no matter who comes into the office, whether I'm coming in and I have digestive stress, whether it be constipation, diarrhea, and somebody else comes in, they have headaches, somebody else comes in and they have these, crazy neurological findings. The goal is always the same with these patients, right? It's always to lower the overall toxic load. And when we talk about the overall toxic load, that's going to look different for everybody because everybody's different biochemical individuality. So, you look at different heavy metals. If they have heavy metals, we're going to find some type of herb to bind that, remove that from their system. We're looking at their blood. Is it too thick? Is it too thin? Do they have any of these coagulation issues? We can address that. Do these people keep constantly every day eating these inflammatory foods that are just creating inflammation through organs and throughout the body? Do they have some type of mold or fungal exposure? Do they have different bacterial imbalances throughout the body? So I think the biggest thing with the Liebowitz protocol, and it resonates so much, is that when you have these people coming in and we can actually, all right, stay away from this food. We can rebalance out certain bacteria depending on how they test. We can, kind of get rid of these heavy metals in their system. And each piece that we take off is just lowering that overall toxic load and allowing the nervous system to function properly. And the best thing I think is a lot of these findings that people come in with, where it's joint pain, it's a headache, it's chronic fatigue, it's irritable bowel syndrome, all these findings, a lot of the times, I'm sure you see the same thing, are usually always secondary to something else. So like if somebody has, a fungus growing inside them, where the insides of us are warm, dark, damp, it's perfect breeding ground for, fungi.
Mhm.
So if that's creating all this, havoc in your system and inflammation and putting stress on certain organs, maybe it's creating, certain vitamin deficiencies. So instead of us saying, oh, all right, well, let's just give you B vitamins for, this deficiency. What if we just go after the fungus, get rid of the fungus, and then all these symptoms just kind of go away?
It's a really amazing it's an amazing protocol, because to me, I look at it and it's just like what we are not right now as a society. I feel like society, I spoke on this recently, and you're only allowed to be uncomfortable for 48 hours. And then you need to put back in what is causing, like, hey, I have a headache. Well, you're not lacking Tylenol, you
Right.
know? And what's interesting with all these pathogens is a lot of them are stealth pathogens. And like you said, like coagulation, if your blood's too thick, which a lot of Americans are dealing with heart disease and other, cardiovascular complications, that in the fibrin in your blood, that's where all these parasites and bacteria and viruses live. And it just takes a certain amount of stress, dehydration, in order to make our body immune compromised and have those stealth pathogens stop being so stealth. And they come out of this kind of mode, and I see people have, these symptoms. And like you said, it's usually secondary to these stealth pathogens, or a trauma that brought on a compromised immune system that kind of opened up the floodgates for Pandora's box. But I want to hear something cool, because I know you must have a couple of really cool success stories. Maybe you could share like one or two with us that you really felt really, really rewarded, and you had a patient who was just absolutely blown away. I always love hearing those kinds of stories.
Uh, I've had a recent one as of maybe like 6 weeks ago. I had this woman come in, and you hear these success stories all the time. And she came in and she had, two shopping bags,
Mhm.
full of supplements. And I was
Yep.
like, oh, okay. And, I was just expecting like, oh yeah, I just brought in everything I had in my medicine cabinet, or, I just brought in everything I had at home to be tested. And,
Sure.
she tells me, oh, I'm on all of these. Yeah, it had to be like 100 supplements. It's
Okay, let's go.
like, she's been chronically ill for like 20 years. She's from Czech. She has gone to, out of the country. She's gone to Florida. She's gone to all these, institutes and all these, health centers to try and get well. And she can't get well. She can't get well. She can't figure it out. So we kind of just toss out all the supplements. We just start from scratch with Liebowitz. Gave her, 3 to 4 different herbs that she tested for. And, she had, a bunch of different bugs and hidden stealth infections. And within a week, she, comes back and is basically crying, of, thank you, how good she feels. And, the chronic fatigue is just gone away in just a week in one visit. Certain,
Wow.
pains and joint pains that she's had in her body, different sleep issues and disturbances she's been having. And I just feel like, you find the issue, you give the body a little bit of help, what it needs. And the best thing about these herbs is, they don't do just one thing. They just do a variety of different things. And we can get really specific with these people about, what, because if you have, say you have a virus, right? We have probably 1,000 different herbs that have antiviral properties, but how do we know that it's good for you, the patient? And then how do we know that it's going to be good against that viral frequency that they're dealing with? So we almost kind of double and triple check our work, and you know, we're
Hmm.
very specific for what we're going after. And it's you can monitor progress through the visits, and people just get better.
That's really cool. That's really cool. I have two little short vignettes that happened recently. I like to talk about recent stuff. I had a patient having a really just tough time with their health, just bad dysbiosis, can't keep food down, and they were losing a lot of weight. And I had, you know, muscle tested them on some herbs, and you know, were able to eat again and keep food down. And you know, they were on glutathione, which is support for the liver, and a couple of other things that I was using to support their liver, that I found, you know, that their liver meridian via AK muscle testing was telling us, hey, this is going crazy right now. And you know, he started having a healing crisis, and he went to the hospital, and they checked his liver value. And they said that if he wasn't on something for liver support, that he would have had like a serious, you know, acute case of, you know, his liver kind of going out. So it was interesting to see even like a patient who was going in a bad direction say like, hey, look, whatever you're giving me, like the doctor said, thank God, you know, we were on this stuff, and on all these herbs and supplements. And that's always amazing to kind of hear a medical doctor say something good about holistic practitioners. That makes me happy, because in reality, you know, like we all, you know, need to be working on our health proactively, but we all have made our way to the emergency room. Life is one event close to death after another until it's our time. And sometimes you got to go to the emergency room. You break a bone, you have an emergency, and I think emergency healthcare is amazing. It's just relying on symptom-based healthcare is kind of what is a little funky, but that's another webinar. But
It's another
I
can of
also,
worms.
yeah. I also have had I love treating kids. I feel like, you know, kids are the future, and I just see them as this like beautiful blank canvas to just build on making the world a better place. And I look at kids as, hey, like you have kids to teach them what you know, and to also teach them what you don't want the world to be, and, you know, to keep making it better each time. And I had a young man, he was about maybe 8, 9 months old, and severe colic, like crying. The mom thought he was choking and stuff. And, you know, watching a kid respond to just a little bit of nutrition and an adjustment is just amazing. Before the kid had problems, this baby had problems going to the bathroom, and I gave it one tiny little adjustment. And for everyone out there scared about getting your kids adjusted, there's nothing to be afraid of. We used really gentle tools and hand pressure, about 12 pounds, no more than that. And I gave this very light, gentle contact right on his bone, on his neck, and the baby filled up 2 diapers while he was in my room.
It's instantaneous.
You heard it like bubbling. You heard him like as soon as you started, it was just instantaneous. And he's doing well, and we're fighting to make sure, you know, the doctors wanted to give him a shot of Botox in his stomach to relax his stomach. And, you know, the mother was like, you know, hey, you know, I don't want to put my kid on this long term, or, you know, have him on antibiotics all of the time. So those are the battles for me that mean the most, is when you're starting, you know, with somebody who doesn't even have a voice, and you're educating like a whole family about health and wellness, and, you know, healthy eating, you know, habits and tricks and little hacks in there. Which brings me to my next question. I want to know, what are some healthy tips, hacks, and/or habits that you have and employ in your life and make you the awesome person that you are?
Healthy tips. For myself, I really just kind of do I do a shake pretty much every day that pretty much changes up. You don't want to be doing the same thing every single day, but, I use a lot of the Supreme Nutrition powders to, go in, like the wild greens and the Camu.
Mm.
I'll mix around those a little bit. I'll use some, Clearvite from Apex for just help with the liver and, phase 1 and phase 2 detoxing. I'll kind of mess around with different proteins, but I think staying active, for us is, very important. In the past year or so, I've kind of changed my exercise routine to, be less, worrying about, how heavy you're lifting and more about, function and mobility. I've done a lot of the functional range conditioning and
Cool.
just tried to incorporate, increasing mobility. And while that mobility increases, making sure that the strength comes with it. And really just, trying to stay up, in this field. Things are constantly changing, and science is always changing, but you really just, I think, finding time to take care of yourself, and to make sure that you're we like to take care of a lot of people and help a lot of people, but it's always important to be taking care of ourselves as well.
Absolutely. I think that self-care is huge for chiropractors because, if you think about it, we wear a lot of hats, and we take on a lot with our patients, and we're their therapist, we're their chiropractor, we're their physical therapist, we're their nutritionist, we're their primary care physician. And it wasn't until recently till I realized that how many of the patients I have out here in Washington, you know, I'm it for them. There's, they didn't let me know until, some situations occur. And I'm like, hey, like maybe you should go and get a blood test with your doctor. I could send you if you want to. And they're like, well, you're going to have to, because like, you're it. And I'm like, whoa, when were you going to tell me? But it's very interesting how much self-care we have to do, but it's obvious to me and you, and it's cool that we're sharing it with other people right now, and this is kind of a cool topic. The doctor-patient relationship is a magical thing, but patients are there to tell us about what's going on. They're not necessarily, we're kind of taken out of the picture. We don't go to the bathroom. We don't have families. We don't eat, like we're here for them. We're not here to share our, lament of being a human being. And definitely I do a lot of self-care. I, like, just like you, I stopped lifting such heavy weights. I lift heavy, but I don't lift as, I don't lift in that level when we were, young kids trying to look like a GI Joe.
Yeah.
I'm sure, just like me, you watched a lot of wrestling as a kid, and humans don't get like that without steroids. So I watched a lot of that, and I had martial arts and wrestling, and took that down a notch. And it's all about kind of preserving our body for the people, just like you. Camu is a big one. The vitamin C, it's good for viruses, good for pulling metals. Wild greens, just great for the great source of greens to calm the gut. Always on the Supreme line, looking at different herbs to take, and always getting tested. That's important. Sleep, you didn't mention sleep. I'm a big sleeper. Love sleep. You too?
Always.
Always. Nice. Water, I do a lot of water. And two things that you didn't mention. I love meditating. So if you're out there and you want to get into meditating, I have a weekly meditation group, 5:30 Pacific Standard Time every Thursday. So that's something is super easy. You just have to sit and listen. and you could really change the course of your health and wellness. I meditate a couple times a day, maybe 2 or 3, and even if it's only for 5 minutes, it gives me like this extra. I feel like there's like a cloud around me, and I could bump into things no problem in life. It's cool. Other than that, I feel like we touched upon a lot of good stuff. Is there anything else you kind of wanted to talk about during today's webinar?
And maybe just to add to that, maybe just getting outside, getting sunlight. I feel like especially around, in the Northeast here, it gets
Yep.
cold out. People, they just, and then people are told to stay inside, which is kind of ridiculous. But even, if it's 20, 30 degrees out and the sun's out, you should still be getting some sunlight,
Sure.
that's pivotal.
Go out, invest in a pair of long underwear, get a jacket, put some gloves, as my dad would say, put some gloves and a hat on, you turkey.
That's it.
It's all good. You can warm up in 20 to 30 degrees, and the same out here in Washington. I'm from New York, so I know I live plenty of Northeast winters, and they're brutal. Washington, not so bad. It's like 45, 50 here. Maybe at night it'll get a little cooler, but we get the rain, and it definitely gets dark out early. And you just gotta get outside, make it happen, breathe some fresh air, keep windows open. It's really important to have that cross ventilation. So why don't you tell the people where they can find you, like where's your office, your phone number, and your Instagram, so that they can contact you if they're in the Boston area, so they can get great care.
About 15, 20 minutes south of Boston. I'm in Needham, Massachusetts, and I'm right on Highland Ave, right across from Needham High School. Phone number is 508-838-6004. And, just like yourself, we look at ourselves as, portal of entry practitioners. So whether somebody, everyone's always like, oh, well, who do you specialize with? It could range from, a 1-month-old to a 92-year-old. It could be somebody with, an ankle injury from sports. It could be somebody who has just, chronic constipation or diarrhea, somebody with chronic headaches, certain food sensitivity. We cover it all. And a lot of what we do, we're not guessing, right? It's very reproducible. We're getting to, the root cause of your issues. And I think, one of the, just from an awareness perspective, people kind of just think everything's musculoskeletal. So if you just go to, the average chiropractor, maybe you have, lower right-sided back pain, right? And, a lot of people might just adjust their SI joint and maybe a lumbar, but what if that's coming from, a digestive valve, referred pain from a digestive valve? If you don't fix the digestive valve, the pain's going to stay. You can adjust till the cows come home, and it's just not going to get to the issue. And I just think so many people experience lower back pain because a lot of the digestive, the large and small intestine related muscles are in, that lower back and pelvic region. So if you're just constant, if you have, bacterial overgrowth in your intestines and you're eating a bunch of inflammatory foods and, it's creating histamine reactions throughout the body, those muscles can kind of short circuit and not function as properly. So it's really just important to always look at the whole person, look at them structurally, make sure they're in alignment, make sure that muscles are firing when they're supposed to, looking at them from like the biochemical perspective, making sure everything's balanced there, and especially emotional. A lot of people, not to be sexist, but especially the women, they'll always have a lot of tension, up in the neck, and kind of get these headaches and, these types of things. And with NET, with neuro emotional technique, we can really get to the root cause of certain issues that may be bothering people, and kind of clear out those emotions, just like we would a spinal adjustment or a misalignment.
Wow, awesome. That was a powerful statement there. So that's great. So the people can find you. They have your number. They know where to get you on Instagram. And if you need to find me at Dr. Ryan Bland, DrRyanBland, Instagram, YouTube, and my website. If you need my phone number, I love phone calls. Give me a shout on the telly, 253-302-3131. And I wanted to thank you again, Dr. Riley. This was an amazing experience. Thank you so much for sharing and taking the time out of your busy schedule to pop on and talk about health and wellness. And I hope we can do this again sometime soon.
Anytime, my friend. Thanks for having me.